son will inherit everything. My husband's affair baby will receive nothing. I'm Emily. 5 years ago, my husband left me while I was 2 months pregnant with our second child. His co-worker Bethany was having his baby too. I found out when she sent me an ultrasound photo with upgrade written on it. I miscarried 3 days later. He moved in with her that same week. My mother-in-law Margaret cut them off immediately. She told my ex she didn't raise him to be a coward. She helped me through the miscarriage, moved me into her guest house, and raised my son Lucas while I rebuilt my life. In 5 years, she never once met their kid. Bethany absolutely hated that. I remember Bethany posting on social media about how sad it was that her son would grow up without grandparents. She'd tag Margaret in posts. Margaret would block her every time. My ex tried everything. He'd show up at holidays begging. He'd send letters. Nothing worked. Margaret told me once, my father left my mother for his secretary. I watched my childhood get destroyed. I won't reward my son for doing the same thing. 3 months ago, Margaret got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. 6 months to live, maybe less. Within a week, my ex and Bethany started visiting the hospital, bringing flowers, acting devastated. Bethany would cry about how she'd matured, how she understood Margaret's anger now that she was a mother herself. Margaret played along. She'd smile weekly and thank them for coming. She even asked to see photos of their son. I was confused until she pulled me aside one day and whispered, I want them comfortable. I want them expecting everything. Over the next 2 months, Bethany got bolder. She started making comments about how the house needed updating, how the guest house where Lucas and I lived could be converted into a rental for extra income. Last week, Margaret invited everyone for dinner. My parents, my ex, Bethany, and their kid. It was tense. Halfway through dinner, Bethany turned to Lucas and said, soon you'll have a real little brother to share Grandma's big house with. Won't that be fun? Lucas, who's 5, looked at me confused. He said, but Mommy, you said we live in Grandma's guest house forever. Bethany smiled that fake sweet smile and said, well, things changed, sweetie. Your dad told me Grandma's leaving everything to family. And now that we're all family again, we'll all share. I felt my blood go cold, but I looked at Margaret. Her face was completely neutral. She just sipped her tea. My ex jumped in, trying to smooth things over. Mom's been so generous, wanting us all together again. Right, Mom? Margaret just smiled, didn't say a word. That night, after everyone left, Margaret told me she'd already updated her will 2 weeks ago. She was just waiting for the right moment. The will was clear. Lucas inherits the main house, the guest house, and her entire estate valued at $2.3 million. I received $400,000 in a trust to maintain the properties until Lucas turns 18. Not a single cent to my ex. Margaret made sure the lawyer would call them exactly 1 week after her passing to read the will. She said, I want them to mourn appropriately, then get the shock of their lives. Yesterday morning, Margaret passed away peacefully with me and Lucas by her side. She held my hand and whispered, he'll know he was loved. That's all that matters. This morning, exactly 1 week later, the lawyer called them. I wasn't there, but my ex's best friend told me what happened. My ex answered on speakerphone with Bethany in the room. They were discussing which bedroom in the main house would be theirs. When the lawyer read the will, there was silence. Then my ex started screaming, saying his mother had been manipulated, that I'd poisoned her against him, that the will wasn't legal. Bethany apparently grabbed the phone and cried about how unfair it was, how her son deserved to know his grandmother's legacy, how they'd been taking care of Margaret for months. The lawyer's response was ice cold. Mrs. Margaret made this decision with sound mind, witnessed by 3 independent parties, and updated it 6 times over 2 years to ensure clarity. There will be no contest. This call is simply a courtesy. They hung up. An hour later, my ex showed up at the guest house, banging on the door. I didn't answer. He screamed through the door that I'd stolen his inheritance, that I'd manipulated a dying woman, that he'd see me in court. My father, who was visiting, opened the door and said one sentence. Your mother loved you enough to try one last time. You failed her again. My ex left. This afternoon, I got a text from Bethany. Just 4 words. You'll regret this. I blocked her number. Tonight, Lucas asked me why Daddy was so angry. I told him the truth, that Grandma loved him more than anything, that she made sure he'd always have a home, that some people can't understand that kind of love. He said, I miss Grandma. I said, me too, baby. Me too. I'm sitting in Margaret's house right now. Our house. Lucas is asleep in the room Margaret decorated for him with glow-in-the-dark stars. Her photos are on every wall. Her furniture exactly where she left it. Bethany wanted to take down pictures of my son when she moved in. Instead, tomorrow I'm adding more. Margaret got exactly what she wanted. Her grandson protected, her legacy intact, and her son finally understanding that actions have consequences.